Hello everybody, welcome once again back to the channel. We are once again in the car, which means we have seen yet another new movie. Tonight's film was none other than the film 30 Years in the Making. The film that will save us all from the rut that is superhero films. And the one that brings accurate closure to all of your hopes and dreams for the inevitable apocalypse that will eventually happen.
Oh, glory.
I'm talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm joined by DJ for the first time in like a month. So we're eagerly awaiting somebody else's opinion on film because mine is trash. DJ, 1 to 10.
Oh, this is a hard one.
I agree.
There's so much to unpack here. 7.5.
That's fair. I lean towards 8, but 7.5 is fair.
I almost gave it an 8. Maybe by the end of the review I might give it an 8, but we'll see how I feel when I talk about it.
It's one of those things where the longer that we're away from the film, the more that I think about it. And 7.5, I think, actually is just... I think it is just a 7.5 for me as well.
There's a lot of issues with the film, but a lot of the issues are intentional, so it makes it difficult. A film like this is hard because the other Deadpool films actually suffer from some of the same thing, and not just them. There's a few other films in general that do what these films do, that suffer from similar situation where they've gone on long enough now that the joke becomes too serious and the serious becomes too much of a joke, and it gets hard to tell where the line is between intentional gaffe and actual gaffe.
Yeah,
there's a blurring here, so it's tough. I might just give it an 8. Screw it.
I want to stick with 7.5.
Okay.
Cinematography's solid, the acting's pretty good, dialogue's pretty good. The thing is that sometimes the humor feels so overwhelming that it starts feeling very forced and a little bit grating at times. It's good humor, but it's like too much of a good thing.
There's too much fourth wall breaking in this one. Too consecutive. Too much consecutive. The first two, kind of leaning this a little bit. The second one gets a little close, but they never quite overdo it. This one is... The movie is out of the movie so much that I get... The second one and the first one let me believe I was in a movie. I had some immersion. The fourth wall breaks were actually the comic relief in the film.
Yeah.
This one, the fourth wall breaks are part of the film. Like, integral to the plot of the film. And it makes it hard then to take the other characters seriously. One of the things about Deadpool that works is he knows he's in a fake reality.
Yeah.
But everybody else, all the other characters, think this is real. Like, this is their reality. This is where they exist.
Well,
and his breaking in this one tends to break out a little too much. And the plot doesn't actually get a chance to stand on its own for long sections of the film. And in the humor, like not even the fourth wall, but just like the humor in general, like it's over the top, like you said.
Yeah.
It's intense.
Well, it's intense, and the other thing is that sometimes it doesn't feel like you have a moment to breathe.
Yes.
Like, when it comes to comedy, there has to be moments where you can breathe in order for the next joke to land. Sometimes it's just like joke. And it starts getting a bit tiresome. Like I said, the dialogue's pretty good. I agree with you on the fourth wall breaking. It's like Deadpool 2 handled the fourth wall breaking, I think, the best. The first one, they played with it a bit, and it felt more like you're watching a comic book.
Yes.
Like a Deadpool comic book, where he does reference the fact that, it's kind of a movie, but it's mainly just this is a comic book humor. The second one is a little bit even more aware of the fact that, it's a sequel and it's a movie franchise kind of thing, and that there's another universe that he can't really talk about. This one is like, okay, he is 100% aware that not only is this a movie, this is a movie within a timeline that he's entirely aware of the entire timeline. Not just places that he could have been involved in, but
Right.
He's aware of the fact that, like, his universe doesn't really exist, but he's fighting to keep it to exist.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the humor for the fourth wall breaks gets confusing.
If anyone who's watched this has ever played or even seen a watch through of the Deadpool video game, there is a moment where he walks through a zone, and it's like all like low res, and he's like, oh, he calls his agent and he's like, oh, we blew the budget on this thing, and he's like, fix it now. He fixes the game. It's a funny callback and a great like little fun line. The entire movie is that over and over and over and over again, and it's like, that doesn't work if you do the same thing over and over and over and over again. Now, there's also a lot of really good fourth wall breaks, a lot of really good jokes, and they land well. There's just like, for every one joke that lands well or one good fourth wall break, there's like 4 that are a little intense.
Right, and the other thing too is that the jokes that actually had time to kind of breathe a little bit were the ones that were in the trailer. So it felt stale.
Yes.
Like, there's sections of the movie where, because that is the one joke, and it is a great line, it is probably one of the best lines in the movie, which is why they threw it in the trailer, which I think that they need to kind of revisit how to make a good trailer, because even before our movie, there was a trailer that I pointed out kind of ruined probably about a quarter of the film that's going to come out. Romulus. Because they showed one of the characters being killed on screen, and they did the whole thing. So it's like, okay, you've lost all tension for any scenes that person is in until that.
Yeah, a lot of the Deadpool trailers did something similar. They did a really good job of masking the plot.
Well, and they masked a lot of the stuff that's like CGI behind something.
But the problem is that you can infer a lot of this film from the trailer, which is frustrating. And we can get more into spoilers, but because I'm trying not to like ruin everybody else's day.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because the movie in and of itself is fun. Like, it's enjoyable.
It's fun and it's enjoyable. It's good. It's a worthy sequel.
It's a strong nerd callback. Yeah. It's not just a sequel to Deadpool. It also is like a kind of like a going away present, or like a chef's kiss to the Fox universe. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is that it feels like a tribute.
Yes.
It's literally like a tribute to 30 years of filmmaking. Like, that's the thing, is that it's very well done in that regard. This is a good movie. It's probably the best MCU movie that's come out in the last 2 years. That's not hard to do, but it still is. It's worth watching if you're going to see it in theaters. I recommend it. It's a good movie. It deserves to be watched. And
it doesn't take itself super seriously, which is good for Deadpool. But even then, one of the things I enjoyed about some of the early Marvel films is they didn't take themselves super seriously.
Well, it is aware it's a comic book.
Yes.
It's like, let's have fun doing it.
Yes, and I think part of the problem is Marvel got way too serious. Like, the stakes got like really intense.
Well,
and this film feels more like classic Marvel, where despite even the Deadpool part, where it being a fourth wall breaker, like a joke film, the actual like superhero part of the film feels like a homage to both of the classic X-Men films, but also to the early parts of the MCU, when it had like life in it, and it felt like these felt like real people. And I think part of the problem is they killed off or removed a lot of the Marvel characters, like Tony Stark and Captain America got removed before they got new blood fully in. And so now Marvel has to stand on whole new characters again. They already did this once. It worked, but they're trying to like do it again, and it's a lot harder with characters like Shang-Chi and Kamala Khan. Some characters I even really enjoy, but are even lesser known than the ones they used to start it. Like, Captain America was known by name. Iron Man wasn't a huge character outside of Marvel like nerds, but he was known. Like, these were names people knew. Now you're just picking like the most obscure of the obscure, and it's going to get tough. And Deadpool, I think, is a fun way for them to kind of get back to their roots without having to pull obscure characters. They now have Fox, so they can start pulling in Wolverine and Deadpool and these characters people know, and they can start reusing and giving a little bit more lifeblood into it by putting some of this in. And like you said, it is the best Marvel film to come out in a while. Like, I think the last movie I watched in Marvel that felt like this was Endgame.
Yeah. Well, No Way Home.
Okay, yeah.
I think No Way Home's probably the last Marvel movie that...
Love and Thunder I even really enjoyed, but it suffered from an identity crisis like a lot of other stuff is. And that's one, like, that was the beginning of where people were fandom started to split. I think this film is kind of trying to pull that back together. So
well,
it's more
trying to
than
recapture the magic of it.
It's more than just a single film. This is, like I said, it's a trilogy. It's a homage to the entire Fox universe. It is trying to, like, reinvigorate Marvel, and it ties a lot of characters and plot lines from a lot of different sources together, but not in a way. I'd actually like to talk to a few people who haven't seen all the stuff that we've seen, because they mention a lot of the series and other things get brought into this. If that was a little jarring for people that hadn't seen those, because I have. So the series that we're referring to is, if you really want to know everything that is going on, you have to watch all of the X-Men movies, the old ones from the 90s. You don't need to watch First Class, but they do reference it sometimes. Yep.
Specifically First Class, they reference, like, what is up with the helmet. They get very clear on that.
Now, there's a reference. There's a major plot reference to First Class. There's a major reference to Logan, the film.
Yeah.
There's references to Loki, the series.
Logan is, like, the biggest event in the movie. Like, that's the one that they reference the most and they pull the most from.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you want to watch Loki season 1. There is some stuff in there that is season 2 related, but it is mainly season 1 that they are referencing. They're also Doctor Strange. They have some stuff in there, and I'm trying to think, like,
there's so many small references.
Well, and it's little,
the old
little references, and some of the jokes are actually related to, like, fan theories and fan castings, and then there is a reference to 2-3 movies that were launched and never actually came to fruition.
Yeah, the Origins films.
So you kind of have to know a little bit about just Marvel in general. This film is made for, like, the 30, 40 year. It's
made
for
the nerds. This movie was made for Marvel nerds.
Well, it was made for the nerds, while
like
also
the
bashing
nerdy
nerds.
Like it made fun of the fandom for its ability to be extreme. Star Wars has a similar problem where it's like the fandom can be a little intense, but at the same time, it also pays homage to why the fans enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, it treats it with respect, while being a little. Think of it like an offhand joke at your expense, while also, like, you're at an award ceremony, you're giving an award, and the person grading the award gives you a little bit of on the cheek, a little bit of a kind of like says something like a little derogatory or something to be silly, but you're still being recognized. That's kind of what this feels like. You're being rewarded for being a fan while being poked fun of a little bit.
Well,
it feels fair.
It feels like self-derogatory.
Yes.
Because it's a thing of, like, it is a film that makes fun of comic nerds, but it had to have been written by comic nerds.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the thing, is it's like, in order for them to get everything that they do, it had to have been written by nerds. And it's really clear that Ryan Reynolds in particular just really loves the character.
Yes.
And he makes that very clear, like, especially in the end. He included a clip where it's literally him talking about how much he wanted to play Deadpool. So it is a good film. It suffers from some of the stuff that Marvel does suffer from, but it does it aware of the fact that that's what it points out why it's suffering.
That's part of the problem, is it's hard for me to tell what was intentional and what wasn't. And if it was intentionally, if everything that was done in here that was bad was intentionally done so to make fun of itself, it still gets an 8. Because it basically, either way, gets an 8. Because if it's just poor, if it's just, mistakes were made, and it's just not a perfect film, okay, it's an 8. Still a solid movie. But if they tried to be self-aware and make fun of itself, it still gets an 8 because it didn't pull it off very well.
Yeah.
Like, it just ends up it becomes what it's making fun of. It's like, hey, we're going to make this film kind of sleazy to make fun of itself. And then it just ended up coming across sleazy. It's like a person who says they're just kidding when they say something offensive in order to protect themselves from the backlash. That's what this movie gives off. That, what do they call that? They call it the Schrodinger's douchebag, where it's like, you say something really offensive to somebody and then see if they actually will agree with it. And if they don't, then you pretend you were just kidding. Yeah. That's kind of what this movie does a little bit. It was like, hey, if you're doing this intentionally, it feels just as bad as if you did it unintentionally. Like, it just doesn't come across very good.
Yeah.
So that's why it gets the 8 for me. Is it fails at some points. That's it for me for non-spoiler.
It's gonna take forever to upload. I'm gonna be up until like 4.
All right, go, man. Spoilers.
All right, spoilers. I cannot believe that not only do they bring back every single Deadpool that has ever auditioned to be Deadpool, but halfway through the film, not only do they kill off Hugh Jackman to make fun of the fact that he died in Logan, but they bring in none other than Henry Cavill as the actual Wolverine to establish him as the new canon Wolverine. It was amazing.
Did that actually happen?
They did bring him in. They made fun of the fact that he was there because he is a fan cast. Like, that's the thing.
If you're gonna make your little joke, you got to be a little further away from the truth there, but
I don't know, man. It's late.
No, seriously, they actually did bring in Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. That was hilarious.
Yes, they brought in Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. He is Wolverine.
Sorry, not Hugh Jackman. Henry Cavill.
Yes.
That was great.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill Reed. Oh, that was beautiful. The montage of Wolverines was great. Okay, so just quickly here, because we went pretty hard on non-spoilers, but for spoilers, the big 3 for me that really made this film stand out is the way they just reference everything. Logan's referenced, the different Wolverine worlds, he wears the comic book outfit. Like, they just go hardcore for, like, it's like a nerd's fantasy. Like, they reference that a few times.
Get your sock out.
Get your sock.
Your special sock.
It literally just, like, pays homage. But while giving us 2, I actually really enjoyed the villain.
No, I
was surprised.
The villain, I liked a lot of the stuff, and the thing is that it made fun of the multiverse crap.
Yes,
while actually leaning into the one thing that was actually popular about it. It wasn't the alternate dimensions; it was the timelines
and the alternate characters, alternate versions of characters. Yeah. And he literally references. He's like, Annihilus from Loki season 1 episode 5. It's like, yes. Like, where he literally just, like, those were the fourth wall breaks that were great. There was so many good ones where he was like expositioning in a fun way. I enjoyed. So that, those were for me, like, those expositional, the characters. There's some great character cameos in here, amazing cameos. One of the things I really actually liked about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was a lot of the cameos they pulled from other universes, which was what that movie should have been more of.
Yeah.
This movie did a better job of it than Multiverse did, where it gave a lot more character time. Where they bring in the Captain America, but it's actually Johnny Storm, was a great little riff, and just some really good. That's bringing in the TVA and making them the villains while they're still technically tied into the Loki seasons where things have changed. It's a really good job of paying homage to all of it, to Fox, and at the end credits, they have this beautiful little montage of, like, all the different characters from the
it was all the behind scenes
from the
footage.
Fox movies,
and it was just everybody that was enjoying playing in a Marvel film.
Yeah,
this film really was just kind of like, it felt like it went back to its roots, because superhero films are supposed to be ridiculous, but they're supposed to be fun.
Yeah,
actors do these movies because it's not supposed to be very serious. It's a superhero film. You're not supposed to take it very seriously. But MCU, Marvel, Disney, that culture had gotten to the point. I don't know if it's going to continue, but it's got to start feeling like these films are such a huge deal and such a huge moneymaker that they will make or break your career. So actors started not having fun doing them. And that's kind of the thing, that when actors are just doing it to be professional, this is to make or break my career, I'm doing it for a money move, I'm doing it for a career move, that's when the films start to suffer, I think, because Marvel had gotten so huge. But then it kind of pulls back, and it's just like, this is a comic book film. Let's have fun. We're playing these colorful characters. Let's at least let them be colorful.
The one of the things that made this film really entertaining to me is they have Wolverine in the yellow suit.
Yes.
Which everybody said would be ridiculous in live action. It works so well. And not because it's a Deadpool film. Wolverine is incredibly serious in this film.
Yeah.
He talks about it because he felt ridiculous in it, but he wears it because all his friends are dead and it's the only connection he has to them. So it's
really
a token.
Good moment. Yeah.
It's a token. But when he puts the helmet on, like the mask, it looks gorgeous in live action. And it's just, man, it was just like, it could have worked. Well, like when he makes the joke in, what would you prefer, yellow spandex in the old X-Men films? And I was like, yes! Yes, I would have. But it is absolutely a great tribute and it doesn't come off as silly. Even when Deadpool makes fun of it, you're actually against Deadpool. It's like, shut up, you don't get the dick.
Well, he doesn't make fun of it. He's
jealous.
It off.
He does. He plays it off. But when he's joking about it, like he even makes a joke, he's like, I'm jealous. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's just really good moments where, like, Logan is taking this film so seriously while Deadpool's not, and the juxtaposition is just gorgeous. And that's one of the things I enjoy about Deadpool, and why I want to see him more in other films, because he is a fun way to break the wall to the audience while the other characters can take... He is the way that you make a serious comic film fun and not so serious, but you put the character in who knows it's all fake.
Right. And that was the point of him. That was always the point of Deadpool. It's why he doesn't show up in a lot of stuff.
No, he always shows up at the right time when things get a little too serious. That's what I mean. Obviously, you don't want to use him all the time, but this film did a great job of breaking the Marvel seriousness in a way that was enjoyable. The stakes were still real. There's real stakes. These characters are facing real impactful things. But it doesn't feel like a sad drawl.
Well, and the thing is that it's also a movie that it doesn't feel like, oh, here's the next chapter to set up the next Avengers movie.
Yes.
It has enough things that are at stake where you're like, okay, it's important to watch this movie, obviously, as a continuing series. But it also...
It feels like an intermission.
It feels like an intermission. It feels like a reset. And the other thing is that it had the potential within it, not only to like just bring this whole universe back into another universe, it had the potential for them to just be like, it's over. It's over. It's resolved. That's kind of how it felt. It felt like it gave Disney the opportunity to take the exit. We've set it up so that you can definitely have more movies. You can definitely have all of these new characters and stuff like that. But it's also just kind of like an exit. It's like, if you're done with the ride, you can get off.
Yeah.
If you want to continue, you can continue. But if you want to get off, you can get off.
This is a great moment, too, for them to use this as a jumping off point to help give... Because, they showed a trailer for Brave New World right before it, and it feels like a really serious movie. What was the one? Captain America Winter Soldier was a really high-stakes, serious film, but it was still fun because it was a unique spy thriller. It was a different thing.
Yeah.
We're getting to the point now where Marvel has done all the... They've done a horror film. They've done a spy film. They've done a heist film. They've done these differential things. If they want to continue making films, they're going to have to continue to make it's going to be hard because at one point you told us stories. They're going to have to start leaning into the comics where they take, standalone stories and do stuff. And I think Deadpool did a really good job of that, of taking like the comic character and the vibes from multiple sources and shoving it together into one package. It's a little intense. The last thing I had for spoilers was the bad part, the parts that kind of took me out of the film. Again, some of the fourth wall break, but specifically, a lot of the jokes that he makes to Wolverine are in moments where you're almost getting to get these characters together, and he keeps breaking it a little bit. It's Deadpool being Deadpool. It feels intentional. What they're doing is they're showing that Deadpool ruins himself by just not being able to shut up. But the problem is it's also making the movie unfun because he won't freaking shut up. When there's a moment when Wolverine tells him to shut up, and I'm like, yes, please, stop talking. And I'm with Wolverine on this, and he finally stops, like, oh goodness, a moment of silence. Was actually enjoyable. And then the rest of the film from then on works pretty well. But there's this moment for like 20 minutes of the film where the two of them just aren't working. And
they're not even bickering. And the thing is, it's not even bickering because it's like Deadpool is not only making jokes and cracking jokes and stuff like that, he's asking questions over and over again that we're asking.
Yes.
And as the audience, we're like, okay, we're finally going to get answers. But when it's very clear that Wolverine is not going to give the answer right now, he continues to press. And it's just like, okay, as audiences, yes, we want this. We want this to be explained. But we're not constantly going, okay, resolve it now. Resolve it now. Resolve it now. When he says, I'm not talking about it, and he's drinking rubbing alcohol, it's like he does not want to talk about it. Let's move on and let's get something else going.
And that's the point where Deadpool's childishness starts to rub on you. And it feels, and I think it was intentional. It was meant to be. But the problem is it worked too well. It rubbed me so wrong. I didn't want to watch that anymore. I wanted to move on.
Well, I wanted the movie to continue.
Yes.
And I was done with it being a comedy. I was like, okay, let's do the nerdy superhero stuff. But the other thing too is that he always points out stuff that's like movie critics would point out, not just comic critics.
Yes.
Deadpool, probably one of his most overused jokes is when he explains like, oh, this is a great bit of exposition. It's like, yes, as film critics, we constantly are like, oh, the exposition stick. Literally, like, exposition sickle from Van Helsing is a joke that we made.
But you still did it.
But the thing is that films need exposition.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't need it to be pointed out. Sometimes it's like, yes, you're right, this is exposition, but they're doing it well. When somebody's doing something well, you don't need to nitpick at the fact that they're doing it.
That's part of the problem.
This film struggles because it does the trope and it acknowledges the trope.
Yes.
But the thing is that it does not do what most good films do. When you acknowledge the trope, you're supposed to do it better. It's like Scream. Scream acknowledges the trope, leans into the trope, does the trope better. That's what makes like the first couple of Scream movies so good. If you're going to acknowledge the trope and you're going to make fun of the fact that you're doing the trope, do it
which
better.
Is what they do in the first two. This one they lose it. That's where that 8 comes from, is that inability for them to stick the landing as much. But it's still an 8 for a third in a film. Like, it's not bad. It's not even nitpicky. It's just, it gets a little grating, and it does, like you said, with the tropes and stuff. You're gonna have tropes in films. Films have been around for 100 years. Storytelling has been around for centuries. Stories aren't new. You're gonna run into tropes, but use them well. The problem, like exposition, we make fun of like exposition a lot when we watch it, but that's because it's done poorly. If exposition is done well, you don't care it's there. You only notice it's there when it's done bad. When it's shoved down your throat.
You only make fun of it when it's Frankenstein's monster in an ice cube, saying things that he should not know. Yes. That's when you make fun of it. When people read from the script,
when people read the exposition from the script, that's bad.
Yeah. But when it's naturally coming up through dialogue, that's doing it well. Yes, it is a lot of exposition. But the thing is, too, like, with a film like this, you are literally converging universes and you're converging timelines that even when they were making the movies did not connect. Blade did not connect to X-Men, and Elektra did not connect to X-Men. It connected to
yeah, that was when they originally made all the films just standalone films all on their own.
Well, and Gambit, when he shows up, his movie was greenlit. Channing Tatum was cast. It got greenlit. There were like some practice shots and stuff. It got to that point, and then it got scrapped. So his movie didn't even exist, and it acknowledges that movie didn't exist. How is he here? That's when you need the exposition, because you're converging so much stuff together that in a conversation that seems natural and it's doing the trope, but it's doing it relatively well. You don't need Deadpool to walk in and just be like, that's a hell of a lot of exposition. So much exposition.
Right.
Let them do it, because sometimes a film needs this, and a film that literally is like paying homage to 30 years of film will need a lot of exposition.
That's why I bumped it up too. Part of the reason I gave it a 7.5 originally is it felt grating, but I gave it up to an 8 specifically because I feel like this film was trying to do a lot. This is like so many other films and things that are trying to sum up. It's not just trying to sum up the Deadpool series. It's trying to sum up basically the entire Fox universe and give it new life in the Marvel universe while keeping a plot together. That's a big ask, but honestly, out of all the films to do it, Deadpool's probably the better one because it's not a serious film. It is fun and entertaining and silly, and even when the stakes are high, it's just fun. And I miss this. This is what I kind of got from from the Mission Impossible films that we watched, and some of the films we watched last year that like we rated really high, were films like this where they just were just enjoyable. Like you just enjoyed the film, were well made, well shot, and a cohesive story that works, ties in a bunch of stuff, does a really good job of it. Its only real failure is it gets too Deadpool-y, actually. Deadpool goes a little wild in this one when you start losing what's going on around him. And it's like, actually have him back off a little bit. But maybe, I mean, I say that now, but he does towards the end of the film. But there's still moments where it just gets a little intense, a little graphic with like, his jokes just get a little too hard, I think, and a little too out there. And he just starts like waving. And he starts getting into like potty jokes, which, yeah, I get it, but it's like there's like this serious stuff going on. He's making these weird, dirty jokes that don't fit.
It's shock humor.
Yes, it's shock humor, which works if you don't overuse it to death. The first and second films do a much better job of reining that in and using it in a way that, yeah, it's a little over the top, it's intense, that's the point. But in this one, it crossed the line because it just won't stop. It's just a constant stream of joking that just pulls out of the film a little too much, especially in the first half. The first half is really bad, and then it pulls back a bit, and then towards the end of the film it really starts to find its identity.
Well, right, and the other thing too is that the sheer amount of content that you're trying to put into this one movie, you start losing valuable screen time with all of the jokes.
Yes.
So eventually it gets to the point where probably about 3/4 of the way through the film, you know, you're done with your soda, you're done with most of your popcorn, and you're like, wow, we're really pretty deep into this movie, and Deadpool is still just constantly making jokes, and you're like, the plot has to be going on. Something important has to be happening.
Yeah. Because
this movie is coming to an end.
And it does. It just, it all moves in the last, like, 20 minutes.
Right, and it just snaps. Like, it's literally, like, dragging on with, like, joke, and then it flips. And then when it flips, though, by the time you get to, like, one of the scenes that should have been the coolest scene in the movie, where they're literally fighting all of the Deadpools, I was just like, there's too many damn Deadpools. Like, I actually thought that. Like, while they're fighting them, I'm like, there are so many of them that, one, I can't follow it, but two, I'm just like, this is too much. This is actually too much. I'm not enjoying it. It's too much of a good thing.
It should have come a little earlier.
Yeah, the
It
Deadpool should have shown
took
up.
too long to get to the point. And this was as I said, that's where it gets the 8 from, is that there's some issues with the pacing, there's some issues with like the joking around, but it gets there eventually, and it's enjoyable. And there's enough nerd homage in this thing that you can forgive it for what it is. And like I said, it's a Deadpool film too, so it's meant to be silly and wacky and weird. But it does a good job of fitting into the MCU in a way that I did not anticipate. It's just kind of fun, and using the Time Authority is a fun way. The TVA is a fun way to do that. I swear they invented that before they finished the sale with Fox, just so they could figure out a way to make this work when they did it.
I have a feeling that they thought it out because Loki came out when they were acquiring Fox.
Yes. They were preparing for this moment.
Yeah, so it is something that it was planned, and the way that they executed it was well. I don't think it went the way that they wanted to do it, just because of everything that happened in the last 2 years. This film feels like a reset, but it's also a film that's like it full blown acknowledges it's like everything after Endgame was not great. It makes that joke.
It does.
It's been floundering, and it acknowledges it.
Part of that problem is Endgame completed a story, and so my biggest 3 issues isn't actually with like the writing or any of that stuff in general. The problem is they ended a loop of an entire series, killed off major characters that could have handed off the torch, and then gave them nothing to unite for. And so they just end up throwing out a lot of single stories that came after Endgame. Even No Way Home, which was, I really enjoyed the film, flounders a bit because it, like, without the Avengers like universe being held together.
Well, they acknowledged that.
But even before Endgame, it was floundering. From Civil War on, there was a little bit of a flippy. But the Thanos thing was what held it together. Once that ended, there was nothing cohesive tying the universe together.
Well, that's the point of this movie.
This film is like,
this movie straight up actually pointed
out
that
it's like a patch.
Well, it straight up says that universes shrivel and die rapidly when their anchor point is gone. The Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and the core Avengers cast were the anchor for the MCU. It acknowledges it without outright saying
it does, yes, and it knows what is happening to it. So, but my thing is the multiverse idea was the way to fix that, because now they can do standalone films again any way they want. They can make a film where Captain America and Thor become part of the Guardians of the Galaxy. They can do what ifs all they want in real films, because it can be any universe at once. And instead they just keep trying to keep the original universe alive. At this point, your multiverse is your best weapon to keep these films going. Make films in other universes. Make films with universes smashing into each other. That's about all you're going to be able to do anymore to make things interesting. Or you're going to have to like do the Infinite Earth storyline. Well, that's Christopher Earth is actually how DC did it, but
DC is doing that actively.
But just smash all your freaking universes together like they did in Marvel, and then just make them all one universe again, and then play around with your characters, and then that's what they had to do in the comics to keep them relevant. You just smashed up the canon and start over. You're gonna have to do something or you're gonna have to create a lot of new characters because Batman animated series managed to do that, like, create Harley Quinn, and even the characters that weren't original, like a lot of the villains, were given more personality and more life. Marvel's going to have to do something like that or they're going to fall apart. And this film shows a great way to do it. Like, just lean into the multiverse. Because they've been kind of hedging back a little bit. They won't go full in. They're like tinkering with it. I'm like, either go in or get out. Because if you're going to do this halfway thing, we're just going to get fatigued and confused. If you're going to do it, just start making films that don't have to rely on other films to exist again. That was part of the problem I had with even the Avengers films. A lot of the ones in between felt like fillers to give characters a reason to be on the screen. Thor, the original Thor and Captain America, felt like we're making these movies so that we can put the Avengers together.
Okay.
Don't make movies just so you can put the Avengers together. Give us intriguing stories of characters. and I think we'll be okay. But Marvel's put out some good stuff. I liked the Loki series is really fun. I really enjoyed the Miss Marvel series, was a lot of fun. And I watched the Marvels, which I actually really enjoyed. A lot of people panned that one, but it was what the first Captain Marvel film should have been. It was a lot more fun, and it was a lot more loose, and it was just a good time. Like, more of that, I think, will be okay. Just be loose, be fun, and be willing to lose people, because I think when Endgame happened, they lost a large chunk of their audience who was already fatigued. I think that's part of the problem they're missing. A lot of Marvel fans were fatigued before Endgame. They think the fatigue came after. No. It started way back even before Civil War. It was already starting to creep in, but people were staying in it for the long game because Thanos hadn't happened yet. Once the Infinity Saga ended and the loop had been closed, the few people that had stuck around, I mean, a lot, but the people who stuck around to get there, a lot of them also left because they're like, I saw what I wanted to see, and they got out. You're going to have to make new Marvel fans. You're going to have to start over again. And I think that's what they're going to have to do, is just rebrand. And I think this is part of that. I think this is a good way to start that.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of talk about the MCU in general, but this is like when we watched Blue Beetle. We talked about the DCU for like a freaking hour because this film matters to the universe as a whole. Like, it's an integral key to like hold this whole fabric of space-time together. If films like this that are good like this also fail, we're in trouble.
I don't think that this film's failing.
No, I doubt it will, just especially with all the fill of the theaters, but that's a good thing. If this film does well, it will incentivize Marvel to bring more characters and crossovers from the Fox universe in. Because the Fox films, even the ones that didn't do super well, did pretty decent. Apocalypse did I think Apocalypse did well in the box office.
Well, the majority of Marvel
Dark Phoenix
movies
was the only one I think that suffered, and it mostly suffered because Fox was dead, and people were like, they didn't want to be invested. This film brings that gusto back, brings back the feeling and the love for those films, and I think it's going to do a good job of remerging this back together again.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
All right,
40 minutes later. These ones are hard to talk about because they connect to so many other movies. It's not just this film. It's like 40 other films are involved in this.
Right.
And the longer the MCU goes on, the more these other films matter.
It's true. When they're all connected, it starts getting really complicated, and you have to kind of establish different things. But anyway.
That's why they need to reboot it, because if they keep going like this, you're going to have people that don't want to have to go back. Kids, I know like my people in my family that were like kids, like little kids when Iron Man came out, that are now full adults, that if they want to keep up with us, have to go back and watch films that they were too young to watch to know what's going on. And the homework gets bigger as they add series and everything. The fandom's only going to shrink. You're going to have more standalone films that people can just watch without having to have seen everything. Yeah. It's going to be tough. Good luck, Marvel. You dug this hole, you're going to have to dig yourself back out of it.
Yep.
They were also the first ones to do it. Nobody did what they did. Nobody created a continuing universe like them. So if they figure out how to get out of it, other people can figure out how to make it work from the beginning. All right, I'm done. Actually,
are you sure?
No, I could probably talk another hour on this, but I need to stop. I need to go sleep.
Thanks for watching this video. If you like it, give us a like. Let us know your thoughts about the MCU, Deadpool, Wolverine, Fox's Marvel movies in the comments below. Otherwise, if you guys like movies, we like movies. We watch movies every single week. We try to do a new review every week. Otherwise, we watch old films and revisit them. We watch some bad films every now and then, and we also do just in general, we like talking about movies. So if that interests you, this channel interests you, this is a much longer episode than normal as regards to our weekly reviews, but it just probably the biggest movie of 2024, if I'm just being honest. I don't know any other films really that are sticking out.
No, and this one specifically merges two separate universes into one. It's a lot.
Yeah. So it's a lot. So this is not like our normal length. At least we try not to have this as a normal length. But anyway, make it even longer. If you guys like it, let us know. Otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next video.
Thanks for watching.